Hi, my name is Laura Kirandongo, and today I'm here to talk to you about when it's appropriate to use translation and interpretation for your English language learners. So first off, I would like to talk about what's the difference between translation and interpretation. Translation is when we are taking a written text and translating it from one language to another, from English to Spanish or from Spanish to English. Interpretation, on the other hand, has to do with oral language. For example, if you have a parent-teacher conference and someone comes in to speak to the family on your behalf in the family's first language, that's actually an interpreter, not a translator, because they're hearing what you are saying and they are taking that and they are saying it into the parent's language. And so that is actually interpretation, not translation. When we're trying to decide if we need to use translation or interpretation with our students, we need to take a few different factors into consideration. First, if we're talking about health and counseling or social emotional needs, those are areas in which we need to use first language if possible, because that has to do with a student's health and their well-being. Now, you'll notice there are some specific tools mentioned here. This graphic was provided to us by our consortium. So some of these tools may not be specifically available to us here, but there are other similar tools like Google Translate, Google Conversation Translator, things like that that we can use to help out in these situations. Now, what about academics? When we're looking at academics, the first question we need to ask is the student a newcomer? A newcomer is a student who just recently moved to the country and or is at a level 1 on the WIDA Access or the WIDA Screener. You can check that score on their ILP, and you'll be able to see what their overall WIDA score is. If the answer is yes, they are a newcomer, or they're a level 1, then the next question you need to ask is the student literate in his or her first language? Are they able to read and write in that language? If the answer is no, then providing translation for that student of textbooks or worksheets or any other page is not going to be helpful because they can't read it. So we should not be using written translation for that student. If the answer is yes, then limited translation may be helpful. And the key term here is limited. Essential vocabulary, lesson objectives, but it should always be paired with English scaffolding and language-rich strategies to make sure that they're still learning and acquiring English. Because if we translate every single thing that we give them, then they're going to rely heavily on that, and it might hinder their language acquisition of English. So we need to be very conscious and methodical about how we're using translation. Now, if we come to the point where we decide we should not be using written translation with this student, then that's when we need to think about what strategies are we using in English to make sure they're successful. And there are a few examples on this page. One is annotating objectives. So the objective here says, I can describe the phases of mitosis. What does it mean to describe? You can help students understand what that means. It says talk about or to use details. That's something simple that you can do. Using visuals and labels, using sentence frames, and there are those strategies and others that we'll talk about in later videos to go more in depth. But this first video is about translation and interpretation, when to use it and how to use it. I hope it's helpful, and I hope you tune in to our next video.